is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This morning I'm going to do something that must be done and I'm dreading it. And I'm dreading it because it's going into the realms of something, although it sounds like I've done quite a few times before, I haven't really. And why I haven't done this before is size related. Now they say size doesn't matter. I'll show you why it does. I'll be back. I haven't had to deal with anything this big before. I've got a job to lift that. Now I was going to do this out in the garden. This is where the condition kicks in when I try and do something that's actually quite a strain. I'm puffed out just carrying that in. And everything to do with this is going to be heavy. But it's going to get a lot lighter when I take the pot off, because that's some of the weight. And the plan is to take quite a large portion of the roots off because it's going in a smaller, deeper pot. So we will be hacking the roots. I've caught it just about at the right time, and that's why it hasn't been done. The last time this was repotted, if you want to look it up, it's not on the Garden and Bonsai channel, it's actually on my Orchid channel, and you'd have to put a search in, probably something like DESH, short for Deshojo. You only need a few letters because there won't be many videos on that channel with that expression in. And the last time this was repotted was in April 2018, and it's been in this pot ever since. And it was due to be repotted 3 years ago, 2 years ago and 1 year ago, and this year it's getting done. Now if this takes me all morning, so be it. Then it won't need doing again for some considerable time, but it's got to be done. I just had a quick look at that repotting video when I did this last, just to get a feel for what the tree looked like. The tree has expanded quite a bit since then, I must admit. The trunk's an awful lot thicker. But the plan will be, because by the time we get to the end of the repotting bit I'll have probably had enough, so I'll tell you what the plan is now, is to get it in its new pot, yes. I'm not doing any trimming unless I can see any ridiculously long extensions, but quite honestly they don't matter, because once this is repotted it can stay where it is outside for now, but as soon as any sun hits it I'm going to move it. I'm going to keep it out of the sun, certainly for the first 2/3 of this year at least. And I'm going to put it in a place where it doesn't get any sun but it gets good light, and basically I'm going to let it grow. So no trimming, no pinching the shoots, I'm just going to let it grow. The reason is I'm going to take a lot of roots off, and to support the tree it's going to need to regenerate a lot of new feeder roots. To do that it needs leaf mass. Yeah, it needs to be able to photosynthesize, and quite honestly tree leaves don't photosynthesize until they get up somewhere near full size. So young leaves don't do the job, they rely on the roots. The roots won't be able to supply this tree with enough. So by getting the leaf mass as big as possible, as quickly as possible, is the best thing to generate those new feeder roots. So that's the plan. And then when we get probably to about the end of June, I will cut back the long extensions, because by then I'll have a good leaf mass and the roots should be well underway. So that's the plan. Now I'll shut down, I'll swing the camera around and get it in the, well, whatever the best place is. I don't know what that is yet, and then we'll make a start. But I'm going to have breaks in this. I'm not going to attempt to do this in one go. First job will be to get the pot off, which will be to lighten the load for a start, and then I will probably use my pruning scissors, root pruning scissors, and cut a large ring round the roots to remove that amount. That will lighten it yet again, and then we'll progress from there. But let's get that far first. We might need a coffee or two. To say, I haven't attempted anything this big before or this heavy, and in my condition the heavy is actually a major factor, whereas years ago, last time it was repotted, it probably didn't matter at all. So we'll have a break now while I have a proper think and I get my tools in and everything, and then we'll go from there. So I'll be back. Okay, I've got my tools. I haven't got a vast array of tools. A lot of my tools are multi-function. They're not meant to be, but that's how they get used. Most important thing today will probably be my root shears. I keep these solely for pruning roots. They're sharp, and with these long handles they've got a lot of leverage, so they'll be working hard in a minute. I've got these two which are effectively for branches really, but I don't know what I'm going to come across. That's a knob cutter, got rounded blades. That's a dual purpose branch cutter and trimmer. You can cut branches tight back to the trunk with that sort of thing. I've got my wire cutters, we'll need them first I suspect. And I've got the secateurs in case there's any big stuff that needs cutting that the scissors don't cope with. And I've got my root hook and my root rake. That will be for teasing the roots and, you know, getting all the old media off and that sort of thing. So those are the tools I've got. I don't think I'm going to need anything else. So the first thing I've got to do is get this pot off. This is going to be a bit of a problem because of the weight, but I'm hoping I can just tip it on one side like that. I'm already knocking buds off on the far side, and then I'm hoping I can get under here with my wire cutters. Well, that's got two of them, but I'm going to have to get at the other two. I am going to lose some buds, there's no doubt about it. I can get in down there, get that one. It's effectively two long wires crossed over underneath the pot, but by cutting them off tight to the holes. Now in theory, now it is loose because tree roots don't tend to attach to the pot, but I can't, the problem is I can't lift it, so I don't quite know how I'm going to get this out. What about like that? So I don't think the wires are holding it in there. Slug there, get rid of that. Looks like we've got quite a nasty spider down there too. I'm not looking forward to that, so that's probably going to have to go. I don't mind some spiders, but I don't like them that big. So we will deal with that now. Right, now this is still not releasing the tree from the pot. Ah, yes it is. There we go. Oh, it's sort of out. Sort of. Right. Ah, it's a lot lighter. That was a heavy pot. Ooh. Right. That quite honestly is the hard bit. That was the hard bit. Whew. Right, now the next job is to get it up in the air so that the roots are exposed. Now how am I going to do that? I need a substantial pot. I don't want to get it up too high or the mess is going to go all over the place. I want the mess to stay in this tray. That was my proviso for doing it indoors and not doing it outside, is that I try and keep the mess to a minimum. I think what I'm going to do is get a plastic pot Now that I know the weight's not too bad, in a plastic pot. Let's just get my tools off. Now if we lift that up, put the pot in there and put my turntable on top. Yes, now I can get at it. Right, that's the hard bit done. I now need to go and get the pot that I plan to get it in so that I can see where I'm cutting it off, cutting off, because I'm just literally going to slice this. So we'll have a little break again while I go and get that pot in, and then we'll start attacking this base. So I want all this moss off, because there's weeds in here, there's flowers, dandelions, there's everything in here where it's been in the pot so long, even bits of grass. So I'll go and get the pot so that we can have a look at that, and again I'll be back. Okay, I've brought the pot in so you can see it. It's a nice blue pot. Different shape, obviously, it's not oval. Now oval would look good with this tree, but I haven't got anything else the sort of size that I want. And the thing is with bonsai, this is where you get into problems. You want your tree to get into a good size and look good as a bonsai, and to do so you end up increasing your pot size to go with it. Same with the orchids and anything else really. And the problem you get is when you get to sizes like this, you start looking like an awful lot of money to get a pot that size. Now I got that at a boot sale at a very reasonable price, and there was nothing else around that size anything like what I could afford. So that's what it's going in. Even though it might not be the ideal pot for it, it will do. It will be fine when it's all finished. So I think I'm going to need these more than anything else. I got myself a coffee while I was on a break. Now the first thing I want to do is, this needs to be slightly offset. It doesn't want to go in the centre of the pot, so slightly off to the right. This is still the front, even though I've got a nasty bit here which I really don't like. If I turn it round the other way, I've got what is probably my largest, best pad of foliage when it's in bloom. Is a very large branch, and to have that at the front of the tree would just look totally wrong. So it needs to be back there to give the whole tree depth, and the front is split up amongst these branches. But there are some quite nasty stumps involved here. As soon as the leaves come out you can't see them. Why I'm putting the pot there is because I want to mark the place where I start cutting to the pot. Right, so we have to remember we're on an oval shape at the moment, and we're going to a rectangular shape. So I'm just literally taking this off, and I'm hoping my root shears will just go right through the other side of the base, and then these large pieces can just fall in the tray out of the way. But I'm going to have to do it gently, a bit at a time. In fact, I might even do that sort of thing so that I'm not trying to cut too much. There's an awful lot of grit in here, rightly so. Do you know what? I think I might have a better idea. Maybe. Let's get the heavy duty stuff out. Now this is not going to do the blade much good because it's supposed to be a pruning saw, but it's going to make this job an infinitely faster job. This would be better if it was on a stable base, wouldn't it? I can't do it. I can't put it anywhere where it's stable. So we'll just have to plod away with it. done. One end's done. Now because I'm right-handed, we will have to bring this round here. Whoops, I thought that was going to happen. The pot moved. Right, where was my indent? Just there. Bring that across. We're looking at about there. One of my little things to go over the holes. Need to look after those. Right, so we're going to go from there to there. It's difficult to stop it twisting. Stop it all moving. Oh, for goodness sake. Gotta have it far enough hanging off the turntable so that the saw doesn't crank up the turntable. I remember doing that with my workbench once. I was trying to cut a piece of wood that was quite a thick, chunky piece, and it seemed to be taking an awful long time, and then I realised I was actually cutting my workbench at the same time. This is just not working. It's actually crushed the pot. That's why it's not working. So the pot wasn't strong enough for the job. It's all disintegrated. So we'll have to. Have we got a stronger one? Yes. That looks to have a better rim on it, so maybe that would be better. The little plastic bits to go over the hole. There's 2 of them rescued. There's 4 on the old pot. Right, so that's the 2 sides done. We've still got to go along here and get the narrow bit done. Go back to using these. Slower and more tedious, but it's less stressful on the grounds that I'm not trying to hold the whole thing still because I'm only cutting a little bit at a time. So I think this is a better bet. It's going to take a while, but as I said, I've done this since 2018. So it's not like something I have to repeat very often. Nonetheless, it's something I don't want to repeat very often because this is hard work. Hard and heavy. Right, that's sort of got me about halfway. Let's see if we can come back in with the saw and do a little bit more. Do a bit of both. Okay, if it didn't keep catching. Just keeps getting stuck. Nearly there. Plastic bit. That's 3. Now come along this front edge now. Because the smaller this is getting, the more difficult it is not to catch the turntable. I'm going to see if I can go along with the saw again. Just twist it slightly so I can see what I'm doing. This is far quicker than the scissors. Halfway already. And just touching the turntable. I could hear it. Right, so that's the 4 big pieces taken off. Let's reset everything back nice and square. Right, in theory that's the hardest bit, but we still have a lot more to do because all that's done is taken some big pieces off. Still got a lot more to do. I'm just going to get my pot out of the way because it's on top of all my tools. Right, now we need to start teasing. This is where we start making the big mess. I'm starting with the root hook so that I can get, I suppose it might be an idea to get the wire off while we can see it. Come on, always one doesn't want to come out. So this should be able to get all the moss off. I can see what I'm doing. Some lovely thick roots here. Obviously I'm not going to attempt to remove all the media. Just going to get off enough to get back to revealing the feeder roots. And then we may have another trim. If I swing this round, you can see what's happening. Yeah, this is what I'm aiming for, so that most of the media is out with these roots exposed, and then we will have a trim. Then I will get underneath and rake out the media from underneath the tree. But as this is a relatively tedious, slow-going event that's going to take me some considerable time, I'm going to stop talking and I'll speed it up. So this is on the this is endearingly known as Benny Hill time, you know, a bit quick, but it allows me to get the video done and compress the time. So we'll start doing that now. Right, there we go. A greatly reduced root system. A lot of mess, and a lot of it's gone on the floor. I think some went in my coffee, but it's all flavour, I think. Yeah, there's a few stones in there, so be it. Eat more dirt. The next thing to do is to actually check that it now goes in that pot. So we will do that next. But then I'm going to have a good clear up. And get rid of that blade, because you've only got to catch your knuckle on that, and with my blood thinners I'd be bleeding for about an hour, which we don't want. Yes, now the cat wants to go out, so we'll have another break at this point. Okay, I've had a tidy up, semi-tidy up, and I've got the pot back up again, dropped the tree in, and it fits in there lovely. So I don't need to trim any more roots. I'm happy that there's gaps all around where the new media will go, and I'm happy that the roots have been trimmed in such a way that the new feeder roots will take off. Tree roots are a strange phenomenon. If they come up, they, you know, obviously they grow through the soil. There's an old saying from bonsai people, everybody thinks tree roots grow in the soil. Well, actually they don't, they grow in the gaps. And when you've got a really gritty mix like you tend to use in bonsai, so that it's well drained, holds some moisture but doesn't end up with a puddle. It needs to drain well. Every time a root hits a block, like a little piece of grit or something, it tends to branch. So you end up with a much finer ramification, wrong word for roots I think, but a much finer set of feeder roots in a gritty soil, and that's what helps keep the tree healthy. So when people say that, oh, you're pruning the roots to keep the tree small, no, you're pruning the roots to make the tree grow better. The trimming on the top keeps the tree to the shape you want. That helps produce feeder roots, which produce the energy for the tree to survive. So yes, there's nothing else to do now but prepare the pot and get some media mixed up, which will take me a while because it's all over the place in various bags, and it'll be a bit of a guess how much I want, but we'll get somewhere near it. But there will be a layer of grit on the bottom. That will raise the tree up automatically a bit, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I've prepared my pot, got my little pieces of plastic gauze in, held in by little butterfly clips. There's plenty of videos showing that, I'm not doing that, and some wire in place ready to wire the tree in and hold it still. Now in here, this is my mix I'm going to use and the reasons why. On the organic side, I've got 2 mugs of small orchid bark. Yes, it's organic. It does hold some moisture, not a lot. It does provide air spaces and drainage. And it's like an organic version of grit, because it takes quite a few years before it even thinks about breaking down. It's quite hard. This, you're not going to like this, this is peat. It's real peat. The reason I've got it is, first of all, I already have it. I have a bale of the stuff, 32 litres. And the reason is I've got some carnivorous plants and a type of orchid, and those don't grow well in anything else. And the fact that it was for sale in a carnivorous plant nursery at a very reasonable price for the amount, I thought we'll buy that and it will last me a lifetime, and I'll never have to buy any more, and I'll have some for friends. If you want to stop peat being used, it's not a matter of buying it or not buying it, it's stopping the people digging it up. Once it's dug up, you just as well use it. Anyway, peat. So we've got 2 mugs of the bark. This is my measuring mug. 2 mugs of real peat, coarse peat, it's quite chunky. 2 mugs of garden compost, any sort of garden centre compost, just for organic. And then I've got 5 mugs of horticultural grit. This is quite chunky grit, but in amongst this grit is some sandy type grit. Yeah? So it's not just stones, it's actually got some sandy type grit in amongst it as well. Now this is probably far too much for what I want, I hope, because I hate not having enough. Any leftover will just go in a bag to use another time. So we get this lot mixed up. Like being back at school in the sandpit, isn't it? Give it a good mix. Use your eyes. Does it look the same all around the pile? And if it doesn't, yeah, mixed it enough. Now this is quite a gritty mix, but it's got more than enough organic in it for me not to need to water it twice a day through the summer months when it's hot and dry. There's plenty of organic in there to hold moisture, but come the winter time, it's gritty enough to be able to drain when we get those long wet periods, which we do in the English winter. So I'm just breaking up some of the lumps when I see them of the chunky peat. So there we go, that's the media I'm going to use. There's a bit of perlite in there. The reason is, the last time I used the peat I mixed perlite with it to go with a certain type of orchid that I grow, and there was still some left over from that massive potting that I did, and as a consequence I bagged it up to use later. That's why there's a tiny bit of perlite showing there, but it's not much, and it certainly doesn't do any harm. Right, so we'll get that out of the way. Oops. We should be able to get our pot in there, just about. Right, now what I've got here is a different type of grit. This is granite, so it's rock hard, and I'm just going to put some of that, because I've got a lot of this, over the top of my little thingies and produce a layer on the bottom of the pot. The reason for that is that water won't sit in the bottom of the pot because it will get straight to the drainage holes. Right, then we get some of our media on top. We'll have a hill, and I suppose we'd better have a tree, hadn't we? I popped it down here out of the way. Right, now I'm still playing with deciding on the front of this thing, you know. So the problem is I've got this lovely branch coming out to the side that angles downwards and forms like a cascade down one side, which is why I need this potted off centre, because that branch hangs out a fair bit. And it doesn't look right that way round, so it does have to go this way round. So I'm looking at the front. I need it slightly offset. And that's too high in the pot. So we need to take some out. I want this lower in the pot than it was before, simply because it sticks up in the air and looks like it's sat on a hillock, which, you know, if that's what you want, fine, but I don't. I want it to sit a bit flatter. So let's have a look at that then. Sounds a bit better. Yeah, I think that's a bit better. And then we'll just move it over to one side so that it's slightly offset. Only needs to be slight. And that way my cascade branch comes down over the long side of the pot, if you know what I mean. And this one slightly forward. Yeah, roots look nice. Right, so let's get some media in there. Right, before we go too mad, we'll get our wires on. And there's plenty for the wires to grab hold of. Plenty. So bring these round here. I need my big pliers, not the little ones. Oh, I just pop and get them. No matter how many tools you've got and how much preparation you do, there's always one tool not got. And that was the one, my large pliers. Basically because this is quite thick wire, so we're going to need some chunky pliers to do the job. I always cut my ends on the wire first, before I start twisting and pulling with the pliers. That way the pliers go over the end of the wire quite nicely, and they can do a good grab hold. You start twisting, make sure you go the right way, the same way as you started by hand. Keep going, pulling at the same time, and eventually it will get tight. Needs to go a bit tighter. This is not twisting very well at the moment. Ah, that's better. I can feel it getting tight now. Yes, that's one done. It's heavy again. Yeah, grit. Bring the other one round here. Right, cut that off. Push that down, it should disappear. Right, now we start prodding. The reason for this is that there are lots of tiny gaps in between those roots, and that's no good to man nor beast. All of these feeder roots need to be in contact with media, otherwise they will just dry up and they certainly won't be working and doing the job they're designed to do. So we just keep poking away, getting it right down in between all the roots. Tedious job, but you just got to do it. And poking it down hard with your fingers doesn't do the same job because it doesn't get in the gaps. You'll just compact it. And then once you've done that and you're confident that you've got it in all the little gaps, then you can put some pressure on. I always go down the sides. I don't press anywhere but down the sides. And then as you can see, there's now room for quite a bit more. Where did we get to? You've also got the follow-on to this, which is a really good soak, really wet, and that helps wash the finer particles in this mix down in between the roots as well. But this is a more guaranteed way of doing it. Can use anything you like. Use a diver. I use a plastic chopstick because I happen to have one lying around. I certainly don't use it for eating Chinese food because I get it all over the floor and all down my front. I'm hopeless. I'd love to learn how to do it properly, but by the time I'm messing about learning how to do it properly, especially when it comes to rice, it's cold. So I'm out with the fork, mate. I like my food hot. Right. Looks like we'll just about have enough. So certainly don't want this right up to the top, because when I water it, it'll wash all the media straight over the side. So you know, I want it down. Leaving a reasonable gap, especially as I haven't finished yet. Right, oh, there's so little left, I'm going to use it up. It'll just spread round. It's dark. Starting a bag for such a small amount, it's just silly. We just use it. There we go. Spread that around. Right. I've got one last job to do before chucking a load of water on it, giving it an absolute soaking and getting it back outside, and I'll be back. Last job, it's just some of the more decorative grit. Looks lovely when it's wet. It's got shades of purple and pinks, and obviously the grey of granite, and it just adds a finishing touch as far as I'm concerned, and helps stop weeds and moss. It does that as well to a degree. It's not a perfect job, but it doesn't do a bad job at stopping that stuff. And in addition to that, it helps hold the media in place when you water. So now I've got to play with the stand outside, because in a very short space of time the sun will be hitting the top of this tree because it's getting higher over the house all the time. So I'm going to move the stand now and set the tree up in a place where it can stay for this, at least until autumn time, when it might need a bit of sun on it, but certainly not now. I need this to settle in, get these leaves open, and get the tree underway. Before I do that, that twig has been annoying me since we started. It's a great big long one. We don't need those. There was another one somewhere. Where was it? Oh, we won't worry about it. Not now. Let's have as many leaves as we can, help feed the tree. So yeah, that's all that's getting done in here, apart from clearing up, putting stuff away and that. So I'll move the stand outside, and we'll go and put the tree back where it goes, or where it will be going.